I'm Lee Spencer with the RacinBoys, and I've caught up with Scott Zipadelli, the crew chief of the winning Camping World Truck Series Championship team. Going to have a big night tonight with celebrating your first championship in the Truck Series. It was a hard-fought battle, was it not?
It was. It was a lot of work the past 24 months from everybody on our race team, and we're really excited to celebrate tonight.
What did it take to get there? I can remember sitting with you guys after the Michigan win, and you didn't even know if you would be at the next race. Can you just talk about what it took, what Shiggy put into this deal to make it all happen?
Shiggy has worked tirelessly. We'd get emails from Shiggy at 2 o'clock in the morning when he'd leave his office. He'd be back in the office at 8 o'clock in the morning. He works nonstop to get us all the funding that he possibly can, and all the credit's all to Shiggy for allowing us to do this. And he just kept kicking the ball down the road and kept coming up with some deals. And it's been a lot of work on everybody's part through the whole company to stay focused on what we could do in our own jobs and let Shiggy take care of the financial side of it. And that's what you get when you have great team chemistry.
But the work you guys talked about, I know in your acceptance after winning at Homestead, you talked about having to kick guys out of the shop, make them go home, because the group of men you assembled were just that dedicated.
They were, and it almost didn't seem like it was work because we enjoyed doing what we were doing so much, and the camaraderie was great amongst all the guys in the shop, even though everybody has such a different personality. But, for instance, Tim Rice, my truck chief, he'd be there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and some nights I'd have to beg him to go home at midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning when we were pulling the truck down, or Ron, our tire guy. The guys they wanted this really bad, and they gave everything they could to pay attention to every detail, and then they gave up absolute 100% all the time.
When I think about going up against ThorSport and GMS and Kyle Busch Motorsports, the powerhouses of the sport, and for you guys to do what you did, weeks later, it just doesn't even seem real yet.
Well, I've thought about that a lot, and I've had that question asked to me the past 2 or 3 weeks quite often. But the only thing I can say is just because we're a small team does not mean we're not a quality team. And I think a lot of the small Xfinity teams, truck teams or cup teams, they don't get the recognition because they're a small group and they don't have the quality as the bigger teams. But I think this should show that a small team can do it if you have the right people in place and you work hard enough, long enough, you can achieve this.
Scott, you came down from New England. I came down from the Midwest. Back in the day, guys didn't even get an opportunity to get to the cup level until, they were in their late 20s, early 30s. This was a sport completely based on merit. Shiggy gave an opportunity to Brett Moffitt, who had been at the Cup Series and, worked his way back to truck. You guys had a relationship with him before. He went outside the box and pretty much put up the funding so you guys could put a quality driver behind the wheel in an era that has really evolved into a buy-ride situation at the truck and Xfinity level. There's been some misconceptions as far as the relationship between Shiggy and Brett and Moffitt and what exactly went down and why he's no longer with the company. Can you kind of talk about the finances surrounding what it takes to make a driver situation work these days?
I mean, it's a lot simpler than it shows in some of the stuff that people have seen on social media. But when Ryan Truex left, we didn't have anything. That was a surprise to us. We thought he was going to stay. They had some funding. So my first choice was Brett. Brett and I have worked together twice before, and we've won a race together. We've had a lot of success together. Our chemistry is really good, and Brett and his agent was able to bring a partial sponsor for the first 4 races. So we had a deal going forward for the first 4. Since then, it's been 98.9% Shiggy coming up with some of the funding, all the funding. And Shiggy has to, worry about making payroll and getting to the next race, the next week, take care of his employees, and it's business. We've had no dialogue with fuel management, Brett's managers, since August. Obviously, we didn't want Brett to leave. We love Brett. He's like family, and I have a great relationship with him, and I hope we work together someday. But we were forced to to entertain some of the other people that were coming through the door starting in August that wanted to be part of our team for 2019. And without any dialogue, unfortunately, ownership had to make a decision, what he felt was the best business decision for him, to secure something for 2019 so he didn't have to stress and worry about making payroll over the winter and losing guys or shutting down or anything like that. So it's strictly a business decision. Brett had nothing wrong, and I've been on both sides of the fence of this, and it's neither side is fun, and there's really no right answer, other than this is a tough business, and you're forced to do things you don't necessarily want to do, but you have to do.
I mean, it's just the climate. I mean, we're even seeing a situation where you either have to bring a sponsor or you have to bring money. It's even starting to creep in the Cup level, and guys can't stay if they don't have the talent to back it up at the top rides. It might get them in the door, but they won't stay there. At least in a situation that you guys were in, you had a driver that, with the support system he had from HRE, he was able to go the distance.
Yeah, one thing, Brett came in and I feel like he was the missing piece to what we have, because myself, my truck chief, Tim Rice, and Brett, we've worked together before. It was a natural fit for me to go race with Brett. I don't know what it is about our relationship. I feel like I can read him really well without using many words. We don't have to talk all night about our truck. It's just, I think it's trust. He trusts me, I trust him, and Tim's right in the middle, and he takes care of what we need. But yeah, it's what's disappointing mostly is that we had such a good year performance-wise. We won races. We had a really strong year, and yet we never had any sponsorship come to the table for 2019. August, September, October, we never had anybody come, hey, we want to talk about 2019. Even winning the championship, we have not had any new partners come along and say, we want to keep this team together. We haven't had any of that. And without that dialogue and those new partnerships, you can't sustain what you have.
It's kind of an interesting time that we live in. Probably since you guys are, still haven't celebrated 2019, or 2018 rather, you're probably not willing to disclose who that new driver is going to be, but do you have somebody in mind?
Yeah, we're going to get through. What we really want to do is get through this week as a group and celebrate as a group and reflect on all the success we've had together over the past 2 years. This has been a really long building process for everybody. Enjoy what we've achieved, and then next week kind of lay the landscape out for everybody to understand where we're going. But I hate that we're making changes that we really had no control over. But I think HRE will win races in the future, and I hope someday that we can maybe run 2 trucks and bring Brett Moffitt back and go for the second championship. You just never know. You can't close any doors. You got to leave them half open and try not to burn any bridges, and wish everybody the best.
Well, if nothing else, you can put championship on your resume now.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Really appreciate your time, Scott.
Thank you very much.